Salem in 1959.
Oh, wow. Now, are you aware that every Thursday at 12:30 there's a writers group in the plaza room of our library?
Yes, as a writer and as an aged writer,
Mm-hmm.
my teachers are my editors,
Mm-hmm.
and I do what I have to do what I have to do. If I were to create something,
Mm-hmm.
I might be right down there doing it. I do belong to Willamette Writers, and I go to the monthly meetings at the Salem Library.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the topics are often things that don't apply to me, I always get some
benefit.
great thing out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I don't write fiction. I don't write my story.
okay.
I write for
Yeah.
such a specific
okay.
purpose.
Yeah, the group in the library is called WYTT, fancy name for Writers Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. And they have all kinds of people, from people who do poetry to people who do fiction to I'm basically an essay writer myself. And I even do some satire occasionally. We have one fellow named Mike Schuler. I don't know if you know Mike.
Yeah.
He does songwriting as well as poetry, and occasionally he brings a guitar and he sings his writing lyrics and stuff.
Cool.
So that's a whole different thing. We used to have science fiction writers in the group, no longer. And our oldest person, Ruth Butler, recently died at 95. She was like the matriarch of the group.
At 95?
Yep.
Well, I'm nothing but a kid.
Yes, and we have somebody very unusual. Her name is Crystal. She's been on the show. I think she was our second person, Awesome Authors, about 2-3 years ago. Crystal grew up in Berlin in the middle and aftermath of World War II, and she's written 3 books about it, including about how the black market and how they used to have to go through the rubble to get enough food to eat, and then the candy bomber who flew over and dropped parachuted candy to the kids there to give them some sense of hope. And she also wrote a lot about the Berlin Wall and how it came up and people trying to struggle across, and so she's
it's an interesting group.
Historic writer. We have somebody from Russia who talks about Russian, not folklore, but Russian tradition and some things that she has. Her name is Elizabeth.
Well, I might have to think about that. I am writing a cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm calling it One Pan Annie,
Right.
Cooks for One.
Mm-hmm.
And the fun part of that is I am One Pan Annie.
Mm-hmm.
My friends are laughing because I've never believed in taking any longer to cook something than it takes to eat it. So they're dying to see what this cookbook is going to be like.
Why don't you consider then, since Thanksgiving is the time of feasting, if you want to be our guest on the first Wednesday, I think November 3rd, and talk about your cookbook if it's ready by that time, to share some of the recipes, and we'll get the audience's mouth watering. Yum, yum, yum. Why not? You have to flip out like a flapjack. I love vanilla cheese. My terrible fixation. Yes.
The book I would like to read because he was so kind to talk about my editing.
Okay.
This is the story based on OR7, but it's really a story about never giving up. And he's done a great job of providing definitions, Oregon place names, and it's a story about animals doing what animals do. And here's what he said in my behalf. I'm indebted to Jan Jackson, who wore herself out, keeping me from smelling every flower along the way. Now, I think that's a wonderful way of
Dedication.
saying something nice about how I cut his book in about half. It's a wonderful book for kids.
So are you going to read an excerpt in the 4+ minutes we have remaining on our agenda?
Well, I would like to read something goofy.
Something goofy. Get your
Yeah.
laughing.
This is something I
Thanks,
wrote in 1989.
The name of the publication?
The Traveler's Times.
Traveler's Times.
And that's the way to get yourself published, is write for your own newspaper.
Is that still operating?
No.
Oh.
I retired in 1993. That's when I started writing for the Capitol Press and Oregon Coast Magazine and a number of agriculture magazines. This is a story, it's an interview I did with the statue of Abraham Lincoln in Lincoln City.
Wow.
And I called it Good Morning, Mr. Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
The Traveler's Times says, Mr. Lincoln, I'm curious about you and why you're here. Do you mind if I ask you some questions? And he says, I don't know. I don't know if I will know the answers, but I'd be pleased to try. Besides that, I like company. The Traveler's Times. You came from the Illinois prairies, which are very different from the wet and windy Oregon coast. Has it been tough to endure the salt air and moisture? No, I like it here. Let me tell you, when those blustery squalls are over and fresh air and new comes again, yes, I like it here very much. Now, I don't need to continue on, but this gives you the idea
Yeah, it's
of kind of a
the interplay.
frivolous way
yeah.
to tell people that when they're in Lincoln City, a beautiful statue of
It is.
Lincoln is there.
Mm-hmm.
He was hauled there on a freight car from New Jersey,
My gosh.
but they couldn't get it through the tunnels between here and there, so they had to barge it to New York and then send it through Canada, take it off, put it on a truck in Portland, go along and raise the electrical wires on the way to Lincoln City.
Mm-hmm.
He came with a broken foot. They had to take that back and repair it.
Fix that.
So
Quite a story.
it's also a statue where Lincoln does not, he's reading a book on his horse.
Mm-hmm.
And it was before he grew a beard, because he didn't grow a beard until a young girl
So he could look more handsome.
suggested that he would look better if he had one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful statue. It's one block off Highway
I
101
remember. Yeah.
between
Right.
Dairy Queen and Barnacle Bills,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody knows it's there.
You mean they don't have a historical sign on 101? They should, really.
They just don't see it.
Okay, good.
I don't know if there's a sign now or not. Everybody I have ever taken to Lincoln City, trust me, they know it's there because I make them go see
Okay,
it.
good. Yeah, so next, I just came from Lincoln City area because I had a
It's
mentor.
right by the Elks Club. It's in the same parking lot
Okay.
as the Elks Club.
Yeah, I know the area. And next time, instead of gambling all your money away in a certain casino there,
Have a chat.
get a little historical flavor
Just
into your
have a
repertoire.
little chat.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much. Closing question in about 20 seconds. Any advice for young authors just starting out?
My advice remains the same. Read, read, read.
Okay.
Write, write, write.
Okay, carry on. Thank you. If any of you have friends out there who are writers, journalists, whatever, get in touch with me, Lee Coyne at CCTV. Glad to have you on. Thanks again, Jan. Carry on.